We've got another devastating update on the Clarence Thomas, Harlan Crow debacle. Do you remember when ProPublica came out with their major reporting? And there were lots of bombshells about the gifts and the trips and all of that. But even they pointed out that one of the things that makes it a little bit harder to say it's definitely a conflict of interest, this relationship between the Supreme Court justice and a right-wing megadonor, is that Crow and his firm have not had a case before the Supreme Court since Thomas joined it. That's what they said. Yeah, about that, turns out kind of did. So Justice Clarence Thomas apparently did not recuse himself from a 2004 appeals case, even though the company being sued was part of the real estate empire run by Harlan Crow, the GOP megadonor who of course showered him with, historic busts and Bibles and things like that. So this is at odds with Thomas's past statement about potential conflicts of interest. He said at the time that he'd sought guidance from colleagues and others in the judiciary early in his tenure as a Supreme Court justice. He said he was, quote, advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court was not reportable. Yeah, they had business before the court, so you're lying. Like, remember, it's one thing to believe that before the business and then change your mind. He's reflecting back on 2 decades plus of this relationship and mischaracterizing what that relationship actually was and how consequential it might have been. Basically, the court case had to do with this $25 million copyright claim brought against the Harlan Crow residential company firm. And that was part of the Crow's father's real estate business. The Supreme Court's decision in the end ultimately benefited Harlan Crow residential. That is, again, and this is the most shocking part of all of these updates, not against any ethical guidelines because we don't have any ethical guidelines for the Supreme Court. They can basically do, at least up until that point, whatever they want. And I don't know, David, that this is gonna be enough to move the needle. We've been waiting to see if there's gonna be any kind of investigation or anything like that. But it seems like every week it just gets even worse, even more explicit. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it does. And a lot of people had lack of faith in the Supreme Court and the court system anyway, and now it just it echoes and bounces around even more. There's been this argument about, oh, well, the problem is that Clarence Thomas is not reporting these gifts. And my argument is it's not about reporting. They shouldn't be getting gifts. None of the Supreme Court justices should be getting lavish trips or millions of dollars to give speeches or hospitality. None of them should. And until we can sort of say that's where our goal is to cut out all conflicts of interest, all apparent conflicts of interest. It's not enough just to disclose things. There has to be an even more ambitious step. And until we can get there, Supreme Court, and until the Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts stops punting and actually says, oh yeah, let's have this discussion. He doesn't even want to have this discussion. He just wants to say, take it up with the judicial conference. Really?
Yeah, it's maddening. Like, this is great extra additional reporting. It's great that we have these facts. It draws the link of a conflict of interest even more explicitly, but we don't need this, man. This is so obvious to regular people. I mean, as a hypothetical, in the room with me right now is Edwin. Edwin is awesome. Show couldn't work without Edwin. If I found out that Edwin was getting gifts from Harlan Crow, I wouldn't even know how that could be a conflict of interest. I wouldn't know what he could be doing to the stage setup or my camera shot or the lighting, but I would find it to be suspicious. You should really go and talk to your lawyer, Edwin. The idea that a Supreme Court justice, I don't need any hard evidence of a conflict of interest, it existing at all, is so damning. And as bad as this is, I still would rate the housing thing with his mom as even worse. I mean, this feels, I'm not a Supreme Court scholar or anything, this feels like one of the dirtiest relationships that has been unveiled. And it's just amazing that we haven't had any movement on it.
Yeah, not only a dirty relationship, never mind the relationship, but there's Clarence Thomas now thumbing his nose at everybody else, saying, not only am I gonna have this dirty relationship, screw you about whether I'm even gonna report it. I don't need to report it. I'm above any sort of ethical constraints. I can do whatever I want. I'm Clarence Thomas. Well, you know what? When Americans hear that, when they see that, regardless of their political views, and I even have some conservative friends who are really uncomfortable. They love what Clarence Thomas has done in the court. They cannot stand the idea that he has become sort of symptomatic of the lack of ethics, and it's a problem for them too. And when you have across the political spectrum people, you get them away from the cameras, you get them off the record, and everybody would say, yeah, this isn't a good thing. We don't want everybody across this country to lose faith in our court system. That's terrible.
I'm very glad that you said that, because I find it interesting that some people who are principled enough that it does actually bother them. Really fast, maybe they haven't made this clear. Do they want him to step down, or would they think if he was to step down or be impeached, would they find that to be acceptable, do you think?
They would find it acceptable if they could find another Clarence Thomas to replace him on the court. It's all about political gamesmanship. Sure, they get rid of Clarence Thomas, but replace him with somebody else who doesn't have the ethical baggage, but has the same right-wing conservative, constitutional views. So their means justify the ends. I mean, great, but that's how sad we've become, right? I mean, you can't just say no. Forget about who's the president and who might be able to pick a Supreme Court justice. Can't we agree that this Supreme Court justice should be off the court? And right now we're in such a hyper-partisan era that even people who might agree that no, what he did was wrong, we're like, well, who's going to be his replacement before they actually give you in.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.